Hello, everyone. We're going to look at today how to write basic functions in R. So in R, we have some base functions and using which we can do different stuffs. But there are some cases when we may need to functionalize those base functions. For example, let's say in R, there is a function called seq, which is short form for sequence. So what it does basically in seq, it takes an input for called from. So what it means is that we are the sequence is going to create a sequence of number, or like series of number. So it's going to start from 1, and then it's going to go up to, let's say, 10, and then it's going to, like the increment of the series would be, let's say, by 2. So then if we select the function and then run it, we see the output is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So what it does is basically it starts with 1, it increments on 2 steps. So it goes from 1 to 3, and then 5, 7, and 9. So you get the idea. But there are times when you'd like to use that function, sequence function, but you don't want to be stuck with a fixed number. You want to be dynamic in that case. So we're going to learn here how we can do that. So this is going to be, you can consider that as the very first or basic introduction to writing function in R. So let's put a comment in here, writing basic function in R. So any function starts with a name, so we need to give it a name. Let's say creating numeric series, and then function starts with the command name function followed by parentheses and curly braces. So within this parentheses, we need to provide the inputs using which the function is going to run logics or calculation that we're going to store between curly braces. So let's say we give it some inputs. Because since we want to make this function dynamic, we don't want to put like solid inputs or hard inputs here. We want to give variable names. So let's give it some variable names. Let's say we're calling it a start. So in this start variable, we're going to give it a numeric value from which it's going to start. And then we're going to give it another variable named end. So we're going to give another numeric input for that variable to store. So let's say we can use 10 in future, and then let's call it interval. So interval will be the steps of the increment. And inside this, we want to perform sequence function. But unlike previously what we did, we're going to use these variables start, and then 2 will be end, by will be intervals. Let's change it to interval. Okay, so this is our function. And then we need to select and run this function so that the function is created and stored. So once this function is created and stored, now we can use the function repeatedly as many times as we want. Let's give it a try, creating num series. So our start will be, let's say 1, and will be, let's say 10, and interval will be, let's say 2. And then if we run this, we'll see it produces the same result as we did with the sequence function, because it's basically doing the same thing, but we're doing it dynamically. And also we can save the output of this function in an object. So let's call it num series. And then if we rerun that, we see that num series is stored here, and we can look at that. Sorry. We can see that it stores the numbers here. So this is really fun. This is really useful when you start programming in R, and you're going to use functions in so many different ways and so many different levels. And also we can check how many different things we can do it with it. Let's say we're going to start with 100. We're going to go up to 10,000. We're going to put the intervals at, let's say, 100, and then we rerun that. And again, we look into the number series and we see the numbers to change and populated data. Also, one more interesting and very basic thing is that when you write a function, we can give it some default values. So let's say for the intervals, we don't want the users to bother about intervals every time. So we can fix the intervals. Let's say the default interval will be 10. So let's say default interval is 2. And then if we rerun that, which will recreate the function. And now the function has a default value for interval. So let's say we want to start from 10. We're going to go up to, let's say, 50. And we're not giving any interval. And still it should run. And what it does, it takes 2 steps interval and creates the series. So far, that's all from this tutorial. Thank you for being with me.